I invite you to gently bring your awareness back into your body. Bring your awareness back into the room. If you've had your eyes closed, I invite you to open up those magnificent eyes that you have. And now that your awareness and focus is present with us, we have an amazing guest joining us this evening. She is a shaman by the name of Dr. Marie Mbouni, and I want to make sure she's on the Zoom with us. Marie, are you there?
Hello, everyone. I'm here with you.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we want to tell everyone about you. And Lee and I first saw you actually when we were doing our Earth Keepers Summit. And I just fell in love with you and thought, oh my gosh, we have to have you on our program, didn't we, Lee? And actually, I want Lee to talk about your bio first.
I'm going to do that. And also, just most of you know, I think, who have watched my show and Monica's show with me and anything that I've channeled, especially, that just how much we believe in the indigenous information on this planet and a revival of their wisdom and relearning perhaps what a lot of us lost. Well, Dr. Marie is a soul shaman, energy healer, spiritual coach, and facilitator of sacred ceremonies. She's perfect for this. She's a leading expert on helping high-performing leaders, business owners, founders, and creatives get reconnected and centered to achieve holistic success, alignment, and, of course, joy. She is the founder of Heart Leadership and the Super Creator Method.
Marie is a best-selling author and speaker with a background in, check this out everyone, she has a background in Western medicine as an MD anesthesiologist and Eastern medicine as a lifelong intuitive and channel. She's a modern mystic and multidimensional spiritual guide specializing in energy, creativity, and shamanic healing. And guess what? She has shared the stage with Don Miguel Ruiz and Deepak Chopra. So we're so honored that she's here on Healing Wednesday with us. She's been featured on NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox.
Marie is committed to getting her message of love and reconnection to as many people as possible. That's why she's here. A philanthropist, Mary is passionate about sacred reciprocity and giving back to help the world evolve into a better place. Dr. Marie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
There's many people, as we proceed, the first thing they're going to do is go, you're kidding. She's an MD.
Yes.
And how does this fit together? And I know you have a story about some kind of shift and awareness that occurred, and we'd love to hear it.
So since I was a child, I always had spiritual gifts, intuitive gifts, and I was always hushed or shushed or stopped. So for a very long time, I made it mean that those things were bad. And I started to develop this belief that in order to belong, I had to be like everyone else. And so at 7 years old, I knew I was going to be a doctor. And so I went on to medical school in Cameroon, Africa. And after I graduated from medical school, because at the time, Cameroon was still very patriarchal, it was really difficult for me to do my job. People would come and ask, how could you be a doctor and you're a woman? You're so young. How can you be a doctor? So I had to fight every day just to be able to do my job. That's when I decided to come to America because it's, the land of freedom. And so I came to the United States, I did my residency in anesthesiology, and I started working and without incidents. And in 2012, something happened to me. I started having what I can describe as spiritual pressure. It was this pressure, this force pushing me to, I don't know what. And what I noticed is that my gifts were starting to come out, without me controlling or wanting to. And of course, in 2012, we all thought the earth was going to end, the Mayan calendar. But for me, it was the time of awakening of my spiritual gifts. And I did not get a typical dark night of the soul or an accident, or for me, it was quite spontaneous. I'm just guessing retroactively that it was those energies of 2012. And I remember I was at a conference, a medical conference, and there was somebody in front of me that I didn't know, and their ancestors came through me. And this deep voice was like, you need to tell him that, and there was this message I had to tell the person. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know you, but this is what I need to tell you. And of course, they were crying. There was a deep moment of healing that happened. But when I went home, I started to thinking, this is not okay. I need to get a hold of this. And that's when, I prayed and meditated, like, what do I need to do next? And it was about, the time where I find my first spiritual teacher. And maybe a couple of years passed, but I was still in the closet. Nobody knew. And that's when I experienced the dark night of the soul, where I'm not going to go through the story, but I was told I was probably going to be fired for something that I didn't even do. And from that point on, there was at first this deep anger because I had sacrificed my life. I was a great anesthesiologist and cared about my patients. And I was just going to be fired like that, just like that, without a second thought. And after the anger, there was this calm that came where I decided that I am going to live my life the way I want to live and say yes to who I truly am. That was the click, who I truly am. And from that moment on, I came out of the spiritual closet in my hospital. And when I did that, I realized that people already knew. They didn't know what was going on. But whenever somebody had a problem, they would call me. Whenever somebody had like a deep anxiety or was not feeling well, nurses would just automatically run to me and say, hey, can you come? Can you help? And I started to ask them, why do you always come to me? And they said, doctor, we don't know what you're doing, but, people always feel good. And when you bring your patients out of surgery, they don't have a lot of pain. They're polite. They smile. And so it is easy for us to take care of your patients. And then I discovered they were calling me the verbal Xanax behind my back. And that encouraged me even more. And from that point, I would bring crystals in my operating room. And whenever I put my patient to sleep, I never ask them to count from 10 to 1. I take them on a mini journey or mini meditation. And even surgeons, whenever they had a tough surgery, they would say, Dr. Marie, I want you in my room. I don't know what you do, but your patients don't die. So
how amazing. I love that your own awakening's blossoming out and it's being noticed. It's being noticed by people around you.
So continue.
Yeah. So what happened next?
Yeah.
And so what happened next is that, I had the director of surgery had his wife who was going to have a tough surgery. And he said he wanted me to be there. And at that point, I was like, I am going to bring everything that I am, because it was a life and death situation. And so I asked his wife if it was okay to do some energy healing before we went to the operating room. I guided her in the healing journey. I called the guides, I called the light, and then the surgery happened and she did not pass and she did not have a lot of pain. And that woman wrote to the director of the hospital and saying everything I did, and that if we could have these types of doctors, it would be great. So of course I didn't get fired after that.
No, you got hired more after
Yeah.
that.
And so what is it that you're now working with now as you've realized who you truly are and have stepped into your power?
So what happened after all this, there was another push where I started receiving messages that you're not here just to work with one person. You're here for humanity, for the people who need, the gifts and the codes that you bring. And, long story, but what happened is that eventually I realized that I was being asked to step fully into the path of the healer, of the shaman. And of course, I shared that with, a lot of people. And everybody was like, oh, you need to be smart. You need to save a lot of money. And then, it's going to be okay. So I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So I worked really hard for 3 months and I saved money where I could live with not doing anything for 6 months. And guess what? Something happened where I had to spend the money. And then I was like, okay, not a problem. And I did it again, working hard, taking calls and, being there wherever I was needed to make more money, more than my normal salary is what I mean. And I saved money again and something happened again. I had to spend all the money. And at that point, I went and sat and I was like, this is a clear message. And the message I received was that this is not about that. This is about a leap of faith. This is about trust. This is about this inner knowingness that I will be okay. So at that point, I quit my job and started doing this work. And what I noticed is I became really intimate with fear. I had never known fear like that in my life, because even my identity, I'm called doctor. It's like, who am I going to be? What are people going to say? They're going to say I'm woo-woo, I'm crazy, I lost it, what an idiot, like all that chatter. And what happened is I wasn't getting enough clients. And I remember one day I was at a grocery store. I live in California, so we have this thing called Trader Joe's. So I was at Trader Joe's and I was standing there looking at groceries, thinking, what can I buy here that is not organic and it's going to be okay? Because up until then, I hadn't realized how expensive good, organic, nutritious foods are, because I would just buy it. And at that point, I was like, this is not working. So when I went home, I literally, meaning no disrespect, but as humans, I would say I kind of sat God, Goddess, Spirit down. And I was like, I live on earth. And on earth, we have to pay for stuff. Maybe you forgot. But you asked me to do this. And now I don't even know what to do. It was like talking to a friend or talking and just saying, of course, it wasn't source or spirit, right? It was me, because I wasn't in full trust. I was in doubt. I was listening to people. I was getting advice from all these people, forgetting that I have that connection to spirit. I have that inner knowing. I have my gifts. So I was giving my power away. And then after that sat down, of course, I realized all this and what happened. The next day, I had my first big client who came because a friend of a friend knew me and just mentioned me in passing. And then it was word of mouth, and that's how it's been. Like, I don't do marketing. It just happens because I have that trust. Of course, I show up. Of how it happened.
That is a beautiful story, and there's many channelers that I've been exposed to over the years who have similar circumstances where they were reluctant in doing what they're doing. And basically there was that gauntlet thrown down that if I'm doing this, show me how to go forward. But there was always that trust in how we go forward. And that is the key that I think you really unlocked, is that the answer's inside and it's not listening to everyone else on the outside. You just end up getting confused. You take in what you need to hear, but then you process it and work it out from in here. I know that with your practice now, you do so many different things in your shamanic healing. You do shamanic journeys. You're involved with the divine feminine and the moon ceremonies. You want to just give us a snippet of the different types of things that you do with clients and with groups?
Yes. So what I realized is that I'm calling in the people who are like me, meaning disconnected, these feelings of separation. At some point in my life, I was even thinking, spirit forgot about me. And so when these people come, most people who come to me are very type A business people who don't even meditate. They don't believe in anything. They just believe in, making more money. So the initial steps that I really take them on is this reconnection, with the divine, bringing them into nature, showing them how they already have this connection within themselves, and energy healings, clearing their channels, awakening, their shamanic gifts, their ways of perceiving the world. So the next thing that I take them through is shamanic journeying, which is a way of accessing altered states of consciousness, right? And through journeying, I bring them, we do soul retrieval. Soul retrieval are this practice where we reclaim the parts of you that you have lost, maybe through trauma, through, limiting beliefs, through the imprints that you bring from your parents, from your grandparents, from the collective. People who know epigenetics kind of know about that. Epigenetics is the science that help us learn how we carry imprints and leave them in our DNA from past generations. So we go through that. And then the next step, depending on what they're doing, is we go through what I call business energetics, where we actually heal your business and bring the vibration of your soul purpose into what you are doing. And if you are a healer or creative, we really awaken that part of you that knows through those practices. Sometimes, some people, after going through my group programs, go and start their own healing business, which is, of course, what I want, because we are all here to serve. I also use plant medicines. Plant medicines are medicine teachers that are here to help us connect to the divine within ourselves, which we all have. And the ones that I use are ayahuasca and psilocybin. Of course, I don't do it in the United States because it's not legal in the United States. I take them to like Costa Rica or Mexico, and I take these people there for an awakening. These are for awakening. And it's such powerful spiritual experiences. And I also work with the cycles of the moon, especially the new moon and the full moon, because it's a very nice, easy way to kind of slide people into this work where they don't feel like they've gone totally woo-woo, right? They can kind of talk about it with other people. So I use that to actually, as a form of inception. Inception, maybe people have seen the movie Inception. It's like where it's before the dream, where you bring the seeds of the idea so that, they think it's a moon ceremony, but we actually awakening their spiritual part, their spiritual self.
Oh,
right?
I love that you are a spiritual sneakiness
Spiritual
in there.
sneakiness.
Would you like to share with our beautiful community some kind of shamanic energy work now in this last part of our conversation?
I would love that. I'm going to do something really simple that I really invite people to do in their homes. I call it water magic soul retrieval. So water is the element that is associated with our emotions, with our unconscious. And, we carry a lot of those emotions within us. There is an epidemic of mental health disease in the United States. There is an epidemic of loneliness. More than half of Americans suffer from loneliness. More than 70% of people in the United States suffer from some sort of addiction. And so our society is calling for healing, and sometimes they don't always have access. So this is for all of us, all of you. And so just gently close your eyes and take a deep inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. During this journey, we're going to go through a waterfall. And when you do this at home, you can use your own shower. And the first step is to set an intention for the water. I ask that grandmother water wash away anything in the ways of this audience operating as fully liberated and awakened beings. I ask that grandmother water help us remove any negativity, any patterns that keep us small, any agreements with ourselves and others that do not serve our minds, our bodies, our spirits. So find yourself walking in nature. And in front of you, you notice a waterfall. Maybe you hear the sound of the water. And allow the water to start to touch you. Maybe you feel the mist. Walk fully under the waterfall. And I'm going to use light language because it's faster to bring codes, divine codes, light codes that will help with this process of retrieving the parts of your soul that you have lost. Kir kark ashtukumor kit ashar kama astor kupa ashtukornor kisa. Kina ka ashtuko omor kistukokor ke astukomor kistukopor. Mer kasar ke ashtur kimi estokomoast. Nga ka arkitekor muka nakast. Kura ke ester ke ashtumoast. Moor kitar kushakomar kina ast. Kira kastorakast more. And I'm going to finish with a sound transmission. Take a deep inhale through the nose and release everything coming back in your body with everything you received, any healings, downloads, insights, awareness. And with your next breath, gently open your eyes. Continue this practice at home, and after your shower of water magic, spend some time journaling. You will receive insights. Do that in an automatic writing, even if it doesn't make sense. Blessings to each and every one of you.
Well, Lee and I want to say blessings to you for sharing that exquisite moment with us. Actually, I'm still in that space, that beautiful deliciousness that invocation, that energy transmission brings through. But I will remind people that Marie has a website that you can go and find out more about her journeys and ceremonies. It's her first and surname, mariembouni.com. But I'm going to spell it because it is a little unusual. Marie is Marie, and her surname, Mbouni, Mbouni. So it's mariembouni.com, and that's where you will find all the information. Final words, Marie, before we go to a break.
So final words is an invitation. It's a call to action for all of us to reclaim who we are, the I am presence, to reclaim the connection that you have with yourself first. If you're not connected to yourself, you cannot connect to anyone. Supreme grounding and awareness so that we can all wake up and make this world a better place. Thank you. Aho.
Oh.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
We don't want to go. We're just sitting here going, I don't want this to end.
This is like, let's just stick here for a bit.
Yes, I want to thank, our allies, benevolent light beings, all the elements, the directions, the divine, for this powerful healing that we have all received. It's still coursing through me, myself. So I'm so grateful for that.
Well, right back at you, beautiful sister. And we are going to take a 10-minute break, but those energies, oh, delicious. They will still be there. Maybe do some journaling, and we'll see you in 10 minutes for the Circle of 12.